Three, two, one, action.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Wrestling in Film podcast, episode 15, if I am to be precise, accurate, because, we know that's a hiccup of mine, remembering the numbers. It's not very important, is it? But welcome back to another episode. Apologies for the hiccup last time. We just had a small pause, but we're back, and we're back with a fantastic interview with the composer of Dark Side of the Ring, Andrew Gordon Macpherson, who has done just, if you've seen Dark Side of the Ring, which is, as I say to Andrew in this interview, my favorite TV show, because nothing combines the power and the beauty of filmmaking, storytelling, and professional wrestling like Dark Side of the Ring. And it's one of the shows that has the greatest blend of just wrestling, but just human storytelling. And it was exemplified when I showed the Chris Benoit documentary episodes to my sister-in-law, to my brothers who aren't wrestling fans, and they were just hooked and just captivated because it was such a compelling story, but it was told in just an incredible way. And Andrew Gordon Macpherson, who has composed all seasons, even the upcoming season 4 of Dark Side of the Ring, as well as Tales of from the Territories, which the team of Darkseid did with the Rock. He's composed the music for that, and he's responsible in so many ways for some of the most powerful, most iconic moments in the series' history. Particularly, we talk about a moment in the Benoit, one of the Benoit episodes that's just so powerful, and it's ingrained in my mind. And I've said that to Andrew before, and we touch on it again here, and he gives a really cool insight into how that came about. So I'm really looking forward to season 4, as I'm sure all wrestling fans, film fans are. It's a fantastic series. It deserves the success and the praise that it gets. I gladly shower it with praise, as Andrew found out in our chat. And without further ado, Andrew Gordon Macpherson, the incredible composer of Dark Side of the Ring, chats with me on the Wrestling and Film podcast ahead of season 4 of Dark Side of the Ring, which premieres on Tuesday, May 30th on Vice TV. Enjoy the interview. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good, man. How you doing?
Great.
Nice.
Let me spit out my lozenge.
It's all right. Nice to, virtually meet you, should I say?
Or at least our not our picture on Instagram meeting each other.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
our actually animated features.
Yes. How's it going, man? How was it like to prepare yourself for another season? Because, to be fair, there's been doubts about this season, not from, I'm sure you guys knew what was going on, but like last year and stuff, there was reports about, is it coming, is it not? There's advice, haven't updated it. So what's it like going back into yet another season? Because I'm definitely really excited, as you know.
It feels great. Feels like home. I mean, we had no doubts about it. It's the highest rated show on our network. It's the most successful show in the history of the network. I knew about Tales from the Territories for couple years before it was announced and everyone else did. I knew that they were sort of developing this thing in tandem with Darkseid. So all of the thoughts of like, oh, they're partnering up with the WWE, or Vince McMahon told them to stop doing it and change their like all that shit is bullshit. It's so funny to watch the discourse about something that you're inside and the theories and whatever. It makes you like look at all of the news and the ways people react and stuff differently when you're inside something with like this much success, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I imagine it's funny looking at your side because I mean from our side that's I don't take it as gospel because you have to take it with a grain of salt, but I was like, is it true? Because I think it was the controversy surrounding, and not to go in all the negative, but what people were saying, the controversy of the plane ride from hell and things like that. They were
yeah.
like, oh, that's really dragged it down. And I was thinking, can it really take it down this much? Because largely it's been so positive and so successful.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sure that there was like a couple of months where, and you know, we were worried about this too. It's just like, well, when I say we, I'm a freelance contractor. I barely leave this basement. I've been in the Vice building twice in my life. So like I only deal with Evan and Jason, and so I'm sure for them that they would have been like you know, worried about the impact of that episode on their ability to talk to certain people in the future or whatever. But it seems like a lot of the, you know, uh fallout was had sort of subsided after like 2 or 3 months,
Yeah,
and you know, and I think if you really look at it, it's obvious that the guys are not trying out to get anyone or put anyone in a hot seat.
yeah,
Everything is, let's hear it from the people who were involved, and you know, some of those people have animosity towards other people, or some people have perspectives that we haven't heard that go up against, you know, uninformed perspectives, which makes one person look bad in this way. But that's, you know,
yeah.
not the intention for sure. So
Yeah, no, and I think you guys have enough of a track record to prove that that's not the case. So, but I'm definitely super excited, as are other people, for the new season. And I want to pull out, I want to go into the hot seat because I want to pull out a statement that you messaged me, but when we were trying to arrange this interview. So I'll quote what you said to me.
all right,
You
let's hear it.
said, "There's a couple. So this season, there's a couple that might turn out to be top five of the whole series." Which I was like, not that I doubt your guys' ability, because I 100% believe in you guys to produce quality, but that's a huge statement considering what you have done in the 3 seasons. Like some people called the Benoit episodes like the best documentary like ever. Let not just wrestling documentary, but people have touted it as like one of the best documentaries. Period. So like that's a big statement. Top five in the whole series.
Yeah, I mean, I like, uh, regardless of my involvement of it, obviously I'm, you know, I'm somewhat biased, but I do think
Yeah,
that there's more than a third of the episodes that can sit on the shelf with some of the greatest documentaries on any subject ever. Um, season 4, there's now the caveat of this is I see a very early cut of what I'm writing music to. Some like the reenactments aren't finished, the editing is not even close to being finished. Sometimes there's interviews missing, but uh there's, I'm gonna say, I don't want to hype it up too much. The Marty Jannetty episode, and possibly the Abdullah the Butcher the episode in their most rudimentary forms. I was like, these are going to be insane.
well,
And I've the only episode that I've seen that's totally finished is the premiere of the Chris and Sonny episode, and it's incredible as well. But I will say, like, there's just stuff that happens in the Marty episode that knocked me back the same in similar ways to some of the top five. We'll say
yeah,
how they affected me the first time. So my from experience, I would say, like, I think that's gonna be, I think it's gonna be one that people talk about for a long time.
fair. No, and to be fair, those are the two. I really love the lineup of this season, but those two in particular, Abdullah and Marty Jannetty, are the ones that kind of caught my eye more than any. And I think Dave Meltzer even, I don't know if he saw it, but he's heard, but he was said that was like quoted as the Marty Jannetty episode was like unbelievable or mind blowing. Like those were the things he was hearing. So, and it doesn't surprise me because Marty's had quite a wild life in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, an easy barometer for is the episode is going to be good is like, do you know anything about the story already? Is that already like fascinating? Well, like, so put a fascinating story in the hands of Jason and Evan, who are incredible filmmakers, and then like this, even this much, journalistic digging and because and I mean they do a lot more than this much, but
Yeah.
if they were only somehow able to get this much journalistic digging and a team of researchers and stuff to try and find everything about that, like what you might get out of it. And I'm so proud of those guys. I'm so lucky to work on the show, and it's my favorite show. It's my favorite show,
Yeah.
and I'm just lucky enough to work on it. So
And I'm not just saying this. It is actually my favorite show. Like, because this is my perfect middle ground of beautiful filmmaking and professional wrestling. So I love it. Speaking of the Mighty episode, you mentioned to me last time in our previous interview that you said that you were a pre-Attitude Era fan. So, and
yeah,
you signaled out like the Mighty Jannetty Shawn Michaels barbershop moment, like as
yeah.
like one of the biggest as when you were a child, and like that kind of era, Doink the Clown, like Pop Shango, like that was your era. And this season seems to be rooted much more to your liking. If we were to say like Mighty Jannetty, Doink the Clown, the era that you watched, if that's fair to say. So was it easier for you to kind of like invest and like compose for something that you were more passionate about from the get-go?
Um, was it? I think if it was easier, it's probably because I'd done 30 Dark Side episodes before. I definitely, I mean, every season we've done something that I brought like a certain amount of nostalgia and childhood memories to. In the first season we had Macho Man. Uh, in the third season we had Ultimate Warrior. Uh, and we had Bret Hart a couple times, Owen, all of like so yeah, there was stuff to bring to this. Like for instance, the premier Chris Candido and Tammy Sitch, aka Sunny. The Sunny is very much in the like zone of when I was heavily engaged with watching WWE. And so I remember a lot of Sunny's rise and a lot of her angles, and I remember these promos of her uh on the beach. They would play her in the bikinis and all of that stuff, obviously. But that kind of ended up tying into part of the story. They interviewed Chris's brother, and he talks about his favorite memories with his like growing up with Chris Candido was Chris doing the power bombing him into the waves on the beach, and how after he passed away, the family had like put a bench on the beach that says "Peace on the Beach." So there was all of this uh sort of like beach flavor coming my way between my own
Memories.
baggage and memories and his memories were completely unrelated. So I was just like, how do I make a Dark Side of the Ring beach movie? Like like let me bring in some elements of that and try and marry it with the accent of the music that I normally do.
Yeah. It's coincidental that you say beach because another episode is Bash at the Beach.
Bash at the yeah, but then there's no beach
Yeah.
relevancy in that. It's just
Yeah. No, that's fair. No, I know that makes a lot of sense. And they did actually release, I think it was yesterday or the day, maybe or the day before, they released the two tracks for this season. It was the Magnum TA one and the Abdullah the Butcher one. And
yeah,
both of them, I don't know the documentary stories or where it goes. I'm aware somewhat of their tales in general, like kind of in broad, vague form, should I say? But they really encapsulate like what I already kind of know about them, and especially Abdullah the Butcher's that song really it shows the character, if you're the evil giant from Sudan and things like
yeah.
that. How do you ever think about like because the thing that people have struggled with in the past for wrestling is where does the wrestling character end and where do we show the real life human? That's always a thing that people seem to play with or struggle with more than anything when it comes to wrestling. Do you ever struggle with that in terms of the music, like trying to not show too much of that wrestling character and more pay towards the story or the human story?
Um, I definitely try and create a contrast in the music. And sometimes I'll sort of vaguely reference stuff that's in the musical world of the character that you would have seen. Like for instance, in the uh, Montreal Screwjob episode with Bret Hart, that iconic Jim Johnston guitar squeal from the Hitman's theme is like something that I like tried to do my version of but in a context of what they're going through. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, with the Grizzly Smith episode, the Jim Johnston theme for the Snake bit, Jake the Snake theme is my favorite of all of the entrance themes. But the story was kind of so different from what we know about Jake the Snake
Yeah.
and the whole family. And so my Jake the Snake theme is more Texan. It's got slide guitar, and it was supposed to be more like Aurelian Smith Jr.'s theme than Jake the Snake. So like I try and take that stuff into account and see where it might be useful to like kind of wink at it and where it's useful to avoid it, depending on the context.
Yeah. Do you ever find that there's that internal battle where, because it's you love it so much, you want to push it in there, but obviously it might not work or might not
Uh,
service the story, shall I say?
it's it's not much of a battle because I don't have a ton of time with each episode. Like I basically turn around all of the music for each episode in about a week.
Oh wow,
So if there is something I'm passionate about trying to interpolate in some way, I just try it immediately and see if I'm not getting anywhere with it or it doesn't fit, then it gets abandoned very quickly.
fair. I guess there has to be a lot of discipline behind that, which obviously you do have. That leads me on to my next question because you talked about the process in another interview that I saw of yours. You said like you'll get the footage or you'll get the interview footage, I believe. You'll watch it, you make notes, and then you'll like maybe talk to the directors like Evan or Jason as well, and then you try to find like I think you said you separate into two categories. What's the action and what's the emotion?
Yeah.
And then you just go on a piano riff. That sounds like, I mean, people always talk about the writer's side of the struggle of writing a story and the script writing and how painful it is. And I'm more of a writer than anything in a lot of regards, so I kind of understand that. How, I know you love it, but how strenuous and almost painful at times can be this process be? Because it sounds, because you're literally going from nothing almost and just trying to spark some sort of creativity, almost not randomly, but it can appear random, if you will, from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, the one lucky thing is whatever misformed synapses and pathways there are in my brain is if I watch a good piece of an interview or a documentary that has no music, there is a distant sound of some music that I think should be there. Now, I don't know if that is just, we're wired for pattern recognition and it's just all of the things that I've seen and been inspired by, just like, it's kind of like this, it's kind of like this. But the painful part, it's not even painful, but it's the difficult part is like, I feel like that's like a very like a if that's the right side of my brain, the right side of my brain is a very like stubborn child that like just getting that the left side of my brain is just like telling the child like focus, listen to that music, distant music, and because we need to like make it in the real world now.
Yeah.
And so like I'm prone to uh procrastinating and looking at my phone too much and going on
As we all are.
as we all are, yeah. But trying to like watch a match as a reference for something, and then an hour and a half has gone by, and I've watched 8 matches or something. Um, but when I talk about the find the action and find the emotion, that's like the left side of my brain, like trying to put in a parachute for when the right side of my brain is like I don't want to write music today. I don't want to listen to. I don't want to think about what chord progression or whatever. So it like there's very much a like, in order for me to be a professional and to deliver in this space, I needed to like build up a methodology.
Yeah.
And you know, as you said, as a writer, as a film writer, like I went to film school and studied audio for film, but also directing. And you know, the one of the best texts for directing are the two books written by Judith Weston. It's like directing actors and the director's vision or something. I can't remember the
Hmm.
second one. It's white cover. Can't. It's on my shelf, like right up there. But
Yeah.
anyway, but like the best nuggets of information from her about directing are like the use of verbs, and basically like you can't shoot anything that's not a verb, so you got to give your actors just verbs to perform actions. And so you know, in the course of writing a lot of music and for a lot of movies, not every scene is a chase, not every scene is a fight, not every scene is you know, something with a very big bold action. So it's like I've got to think about like, how do I create movement around, here's some pictures of legal documents with some narration, or this is a crime scene photos with somebody's sad voiceover, you know, and basically like through metaphor figure out what the verb is, what is the action that the music can like imbue upon the scans of legal documents. And yeah, so all of that is just having done a lot of this and just needing to reinforce the scaffolding of my methodologies so that I can deliver on time and get paid.
Fair, fair. And you do, I like it, not just to toot your own horn because you're here. You do a wonderful job. And like because I read something really interesting, and you talk about the
Thank you very
pay.
much. I've been you've had so many nice compliments to me, and then I've there's been 3 times so far or something in this where I'm like, oh, I should say thank you, but I don't want to cut him. I don't want to interrupt. So I'm going to take the interruption on this one
No, that's all
and
right.
say thank you for all of the compliments. I appreciate it.
No, no, it's it. Sorry, when I'm off, I go. I've talked fast, so I apologize for that. But no, you're very welcome. And you said about the paper there, which is really interesting because in another interview I watched of yours, you said like in the Brian Pillman episode, you tried to create music for like what you thought that a leg infection would sound like. And you
Yeah.
know what? But like this, and I didn't think about it at the time, but it struck me like it's such a big thing, and what makes Darkseid so good. It's like what Evan said, and to me, the first when I spoke to Evan a couple of years ago, and I said repeated his words to you, and I think I've got it down here. He said, the music kind of carries the momentum of the show. The music really drives it, like talking about how significant your scores are for the
Thank you,
show.
Evan.
and and it really is because I just thought even like those things, it's subconsciously we don't realize it, but that's the brilliance of what you've done is it just flows seamlessly, but it adds so much to the story and to the feeling of that moment. And yeah, I think it's not really a question, but it's just a statement that how good it is.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, because we do all of this, you know, the reenactments, they're like almost like dream sequences because
Yeah.
there are always somebody's account of what happened, and or sometimes multiple people's accounts of what happened. And you know, we're trying to give you the feeling of what the thing was like and the experience of what that was like, more than trying to like, I think, perfect. They're called reenactments, but it's kind of more like, you know, they're more impressionistic. And so I try and take that and run with it. No, it's not always like very obvious in the music like what is happening. Like there's things like in the Bruiser Brody episode, um you know, after he gets stabbed in the shower, there's like slowed down tree branches cracking and twisting, and there's like you know, in the Sunny episode I mentioned the beach,
Mm.
there's a lot of sounds of waves like throughout the music in the episode that it's really back in the episode, but just like hopefully like there's some subliminal part of you that is hopefully like feeling like the beach is outside your window while you're watching the episode or something, and hopefully connecting you to their connection with that. And so yeah, I try and find ways, but I don't always do it. I don't a lot of in the more recent years I've been trying to like create original and new sounds that sort of point to those things. Like the waves sound is not literally, I didn't go out to the beach and record the waves and
Yeah.
put it in the music. I'm using synthesizers and other sound design tools to kind of like
Kind of
create.
your own version almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. No, I know. And it does, like I think I said, I think because I didn't even think about it until you said it. But I guess that's what makes it so good, is it doesn't just, it just flows, it just works with it, and you don't even realize it sometimes. And sometimes that's the
Yeah,
best stuff.
and then try not to be super heavy-handed about it. And
Yeah.
it's just it's more like it's just it's something that is there to hopefully give a little je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. And you touched on the reenactments there, and that's a massive thing that Darkseid did. Because to be fair, before Darkseid, I was always quite skeptical when people use reenactments because
Yeah.
it can go quite badly sometimes, for lack of a better way of saying it. But their Darkseid is unreal, and it's so cinematic and it's so theatrical, which is so apropos for wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Um, do you? And I really feel like that it's been quite a game changer because there's very few like documentaries or wrestling documentaries that come along that almost change the game, and I feel like the way Darkseid incorporates this has almost really shifted how wrestling documentaries are made, and being able to use more visuals like that has been actually a shift in since Darkseid's come around. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And because the brilliance of Jason and Evan on in how they designed it, I think that initially before they came to the format of Darkseid, that they wanted to do like a world-class championship series. That's just like a prestige cable series about world class and all the stories and many seasons about all the.
Yeah.
And I think they took it around and didn't really get very far because people hear wrestling, like Hollywood executives hear wrestling, and even though their biggest stars are wrestlers,
Yeah.
just like they hear pro wrestling and they'll just roll their eyes. I don't know. Um, but the genius thing was, um, especially in that era, like the Attitude Era and basically everything WWE, and we've heard, and let's just say all pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Their silhouettes are iconic. They have like all of these characters. They have these action figures where if you looked at the silhouette of that action figure, you would know who they are.
Mm.
And when Jason and Evan were trying to like show and executives advice, they took their action figures and they shot them backlit, and they were like, this is a way that we can recreate this stuff, and a little smoke, a little cinematic lighting, some slow-mo, goes a long way when you have the silhouette of the Legion of Doom.
Mm.
And you know I think that it was ingenious, and I think that it's something that would be harder to do. It would be harder to follow with just the average true crime story or the average celebrity tale or whatever, because it's just bold silhouettes. It's very graphic, and
Yeah.
and it works.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it would be less engaging, I think, without those. Like it really, like the whole reenact, especially the Benoit episode. I always think when they talk about when Eddie died and you just they have the reenactment where Benoit's screaming. That's so powerful, man. It was like, it hits me every time.
Yeah, that's one of those, it's one of those things that in like, uh, my body of work, like that is it ended up being one of the best moments that
Oh yeah.
has kind of ever happened. And I think you and I spoke about this before, but
Yeah, I think I mentioned that part to you before.
yeah,
Yeah.
is when I wrote that sort of screaming music piece, it was supposed to link up with the son when he finds out, when the police officer tells him, and he's like beating on the police officer because he doesn't believe that his father has passed away. And then just the brilliance of Jason of like, let's put it here.
Yeah.
And because and they shot, and I think they had the music before they shot the reenactments. So I think he played it on set and he shot it to go with that. He shot that moment to go with that moment in the
Oh, so
music.
the actors had the music.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
because that's a big thing with me and Jason's collaboration is he like music is such a big part of what he does, and he's listening to lots of stuff. He's sending me lots of stuff. I just did his newest feature film called Kids versus Aliens,
Yeah.
and I read his script, and I think I wrote him 8 to 10 pieces of music just from reading the script, and he played that for the actors, and some
Oh,
of
wow.
it's in the movie, and then we wrote other stuff. But with Dark Side, it depends on how it works with the schedule, because me versus what the reenactments are doing is not always in sync. But sometimes they have the music for the episode, and so they can play it for the actors, like for when they're walking into the ring or when they're doing certain things, and he it really helps his process, I think, and I think it helps him communicate to actors what he's trying to the experience he's trying to make is. So
Yeah. And I guess you could feel for the actors, they could feel it as well because it gives them
yeah,
an ambiance or an emotion, if you will.
yeah, it's a whole different language to engage someone with than just the words on a script or the encouragement that you can give them. So
Yeah.
why not use the tools, I guess.
Yeah. Like along with that moment, and obviously because there's been a few more seasons since that moment, the eulogy where goodness, when they give the Hawk eulogy at the end of episode of the Road Warriors,
Yeah,
Paul Ellering delivers the eulogy that he said. The score that goes underneath that, and the very end of the Pillman episode, where Brian Pillman Jr. and Steve Austin are all kind of talking about it, and it wraps up. Those three, that's my favorite moments,
gets the
scores.
waterworks going for you.
It gets it's the waterworks are sometimes hard, but the lump in the throat is definitely it comes every time.
There's um yeah, there's a eulogy for Luna as well that Mick Foley reads, and I tried to do something. um I've written a few eulogies over the course of the season, and the Legion of Doom one definitely sticks out, but I think on the Luna episode I tried to do a similar thing because it's a very similar scene but it's Mick Foley reading the eulogy he wrote for Luna Vachon.
Yeah,
The Pillman one, that's one of my favorite. The theme that plays at the end, the triumphant Brian Pillman Jr. theme that plays, that's definitely for me one of the top 5 pieces of music I've written for the season. But that's because I had 2 episodes that I got at once, and I could block it out over a longer arc, and so that melody, you hear it in so many forms
mm.
that are like tragic and um but are developing into something, and then so that is the that is the final realization of this again, hopefully it's probably a subliminal thing, but this musical journey I tried to take people on, because I accidentally wrote that melody first, and I was like, this is so cool, and then I had this triumphant thing, and I was like, I gotta save this for the end, but I want it to like really land. So you hear a sad version of that in the situation after his dad dies. You hear a sad version of it, a different sad version of it, or like tense and angry version of it in the situation with the stepdad. And there's all these. So yeah, there's a lot of track laid for us to have a musical moment like that. And so I'm like, it does my heart good to know that it landed with someone, and it seems to have landed with a lot of people.
Oh, yeah,
uh
definitely.
and the other thing I did with that piece is there's a completely different theme that I did for the Platinum Blondes and or sorry, not Platinum Blondes, the Hollywood
Hard
Blondes,
answer.
uh and um and Austin, and sort of their relationship, which is this like like lead guitars and harmony, the guitar harmony
Yeah,
thing, where that gets overlaid with the theme like about halfway through. So you're hearing especially because in the scene, Brian Jr. talks about like he named me Brian Jr. Like there's no way he didn't want me to be a wrestler, and in the episode, the way they cut it was they're intercutting shots of him in AEW and current shots of Brian Pillman Jr. with shots of the Hollywood Blondes and so I wanted you to get all of it at the same time and it so but all of that is like meticulously constructed and so that it will land like that. So
Yeah. And I mean, and it landed, it 100% landed. Uh,
thanks.
you said that I think you one of the most intense schedules you had for this was you did the Benoit part one and part two and New Jack in like a month. And those are some, I mean, brilliant episodes and brilliant work, but there's some dark stuff there. Like, how is that still the most intense schedule that you've had for Dark Side? And it does
Yeah,
it, and
yeah.
now not to excuse the pun, but what was it like going through the dark side, if you will, for those episodes? Because it's pretty intense.
um what, what was it like? I the lump in the throat is I mean, it's a good barometer if I'm getting a lump on my throat from watching the rudimentary versions of the thing and what I'm sort of putting together, I guess. The Benoit episode is like there are the heaviest of emotions in that,
Yeah.
and there is this sense of duty for like uh not phoning it in or like doing right by the story that's there and the people that are there and what's sort of happening. So that yeah, it was it was a lot of work and it was a lot of work and emotionally like I barely left my studio for the month. I slept on the couch
Well,
like most of the time I was there. I actually like I was sitting so much at my desk that I started to like inflict myself with some I basically my hip flexors got
oh
like
wow.
got got messed up to the point where like I had to move my entire studio setup to a standing desk on another level of the
Wow.
building. And so when Jason came over to the studio and we were like looking at the final cuts and doing final notes and stuff of it, I I had it like I was at a standing desk and going through it and I had to go to physiotherapy for like 6 months afterwards.
Oh wow.
Um, but it's nothing compared to what the wrestlers go through, but
Sure.
I like to think it's my
It's your equivalent.
it's a composer's my I turned my ass into a panini. The New Jack one, uh there's obviously very dark stuff in that and very like heavy stuff in that,
Hmm.
but there was a little bit more fun stuff because of his tone and his uh you know his how can I put it, just his attitude. There was a lot to play with there that kind of like put the black clouds away a little bit, the dark clouds away a little bit.
Hmm.
um and because of his gimmicks and stuff, we kind of got into this territory of like West Coast and G Funk and all of this stuff. And I had attended a lecture by DJ Quick, like just not that long before that, and I got to speak with Quick. If you don't know who DJ Quick is, it's like after Dr. Dre, he is the like
Next.
quintessential G Funk producer, and
Okay.
he's worked with Ice Cube and Dre and all of those guys. Um, and I got to like ask him about what makes the quintessential G Funk sound. Like I think that it's this certain sound that you make with a Moog bass, that's sort of referencing this Isley Brothers song. And he's like, no, 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 it's this song. It's a funky worm, and it's this patch on this thing, and it's like you loop that up, and that is it. And so I felt like I I had some like insight that most people wouldn't have about like trying to make music or at least tease some of that flavor into the music. So there was like that was a big respite from the emotional depths of the rest of the episode and both parts of Benoit that I was kind of doing all at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's quite an interesting story, and the timing of that is pretty very convenient, shall we say, as well.
Yeah.
And my final question, Andrew, was this episode. I mean, this season, sorry, like you mentioned some of the episodes that you're really excited about, and the scores, like the beach score. What, like, aside from that, is there any other things that you're really looking forward to people, particular episodes that you're really looking forward to people watching, or moments, or even scores that you've done for this season?
Yeah. Well, I think the reenactments for the Graham family episode are going to be some of the craziest, most absurd things that they've done. Uh, it's kind of our film noir a little bit, um, and there's some incredibly heavy emotional themes in that episode. So I don't want to
Spoil it.
I don't want to spoil it, and I don't want to make people. I don't want to take too make too much light of it because the subject matter is harrowing. But there's just there are stories that in there are stories that we reenact in that are just unbelievable, and people are gonna flip when they hear. But yeah, I'm really proud of that score. I'm really proud of the score for the Bash at the Beach episode because I wanted to. It's kind of our episode about the Monday Night Wars in a lot of ways, and so I wanted to lean into that all the way and make a full blown like war film score, and that includes like listening to things like Star Wars and
Hmm.
listening to you know Full Metal Jacket and listening to Patton and uh, so I did a little bit of that in the Collision in Korea episode, but it was kind of mixed with this idea that it was like the Twilight Zone. So like the concept of the Collision in Korea was like military Twilight Zone, but this one is like full on, the films that, your dad or your granddad was probably watching around the house when you were growing up,
Yeah,
Paths of Glory and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, so I'm pretty proud of that one. Yeah, it's uh Magnum TA one. The music is uh it's very mullety. But it's like he's like a quintessential 80s character, like everything that you would put up as a touchstone for what Stranger Things would impose on a character. It's
Yeah.
like he kind of had all those things. He had the mustache, the mullet, the Porsche. Yeah, it's just the episode, and Magnum TA is kind of the quintessential 80s character in a lot of ways, and so I got to go a little over the top. I mean, I've referenced a lot of 80s music, and I love a lot of 80s music um in the series. But we got to I got to explore that a little bit deeper in the sort of dark side realm, so that was fun. Um and yeah, the Marty Jannetty score is a bit more understated. They spend a lot of time with him, and but then there is his time in the Rockers, and so I got to do some whammy bar dives again, which I love. So metal guitars and
I remember Jason telling me that he was just a massive 80s guy, like Road Warriors and things like that, where that was his jam. That's what he absolutely adored. Is that
yeah.
why you two also click so well? Because 80s love.
uh yeah, I mean, so the apparently the day I was born, uh the number one film in the world was Ghostbusters, and the number one album was Purple Rain. And I like to think that that is the center of my Venn diagram. That Prince has become one of my favorite and most influential artists, and Ghostbusters is definitely the movie I've seen the most times and has been the most influential on me. And yeah, so there's a lot of it's I mean, it's probably the same for everyone, but like from my earliest memories of cinema and music to like start around probably 87 or something like that. I was born in 84. It was like, so this my memories start to materialize around, I don't know, 87 or something, till
Yeah.
around like, some point in the 90s. So there's like Heat is a big influence for both cinematically and for the score.
Incredible score.
Yeah. And why the composer of that one is, he also did Batman Forever. It escapes.
I
I'm
think.
think I just said Ghostbusters, so I'm thinking Elmer Bernstein, but that's not. It's not Elmer Bernstein. Obviously, they're different generations.
Yeah.
But I'm just having a brain fart here.
I think I remember writing a news piece. I believe I'm. Oh goodness, what was his name?
Um, this is embarrassing.
This is a great mid-interview Google search for both of us.
Elliot Goldenthal.
That's it. Yeah.
I had the E. I knew it started with an E, and I just Elmer Bernstein eclipsed that part of my memory. But yeah, Elliot Goldenthal. He did the Schumacher Batman
Oh, yeah.
films. So he has a great but lesser known Bat theme. But you could never compete with Danny Elfman in that
Yes.
realm.
Yes, very true. And I mean, I did lie before when I said final question, but this is definitely the final question. If you had a dream Dark Side episode that you could score, what would it be? Because I mean, I'll give you what Jason and Evan threw out to me before. Some of them they've done since we've spoken about. Well, one they've not done, which I think they both felt was maybe too far-fetched. It would have been, their dream one would have been Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon talking about the boom of WWE and going into that. What would yours be if you could pick one?
Wow. What would my dream one? I have thought about this before, but there's a full episode in this. But again, I think we spoke about this before. Is there the angle of Papa Shango cursing Ultimate Warrior? Um, other than Marty Jannetty going through the barbershop window was like one of the most shocking things I had seen when it happened, and it has become. I've seen in the internet discourse that for a lot of people it was a jump the shark moment, and that it was, a lot of people hate this. The moment I'm talking about is Ultimate Warrior is in the crowd doing a promo, and black ooze starts pouring down his face, and it is part of this angle that he had with Papa Shango, and the idea being that Papa Shango had used his voodoo powers to curse the Ultimate Warrior.
That's one they also had a backstage bit where he's like throwing up and he's just like, yeah.
And I think musically there could be some interesting stuff in there of like maybe some Haitian psych music and but I don't know that there's enough story in it to be a full Dark Side, but it would be interesting to talk about, like I'd be interested to know the inside baseball of when they thought, let's go full on, magic is real, and how they would portray that, and what the backlash may have been, and what the backlash continues to be. I don't know if it's my dream episode, but it's like, I think it's one that like has resonance with me, and like musically, I think there could be some interesting things to happen in it.
I can imagine. It feels like a nostalgic plug for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, I would. For the score purposes, I think I would definitely be very interested in that one. To see what you could create around that. But Andrew, thanks, man. I generally really appreciate the time. It was great to actually have a conversation like this. And I know we've chatted like via email, etc. But it was great to sit down and talk, and it made me more excited for the upcoming season.
I can't wait for you to see it. And yeah, no, it's a pleasure chatting with you always, man. And it's very flattering. You've seen all my interviews, and all my work, and so thank you for that, and thank you for all the compliments. But yeah, Dark Side starts next week. It's It's really good. I'm really lucky. I love those guys, and I can't wait for everyone to see it.
Yeah, we all look forward to it, I'm sure. And thank you again for the time. And hopefully we'll do this again for season 5.
Yeah, here's hoping.
And that was my interview with Andrew Gordon Macpherson. Andrew was a wonderful guest, as I knew he would be. He's an incredibly, really, really kind soul, and he's really appreciative of these opportunities, as you can see. But I'm more so appreciative every time people like Andrew give me the time and to just pick their brain and get insight and uncover this incredible work that they do. It's really wonderful to hear. And Andrew, not just saying this, but he, because of the role that he has, composers may not always have the prominence of other creative members, but Andrew's work is. Without Andrew's work, Dark Side would not be the same. So many moments, and as I said in the interview, Evan Husney said, music is a real catalyst, and it really drives Dark Side of the Ring, and that is Andrew's been responsible for that for 4 seasons. So incredible work, and I look forward to hearing what he comes up with in this season. He's given us a taste or teaser of some of the things that he's done, so I look forward to it. He's got me really excited for season 4. Not that he needed to, but he's doubled my excitement. Can't wait for the Marty Jannetty episode, the Abdullah the Butcher episode, Dog the Clown. I'm very interested in all of them, but particularly those ones stand out in my mind. I'm sure Tammy and Chris Candido is going to be fantastic. Yeah, I really look forward to it. It was fascinating to hear again some of the old stories about previous episodes, such as the Benoit episode story, because if there's ever a moment where you know how significant and important the music is, it's probably that one. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the interview again. Thank you for Andrew again for the time, the insight, and yeah, I hope to chat with him again in the future for season 5 of Dark Side. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. It was a wonderful chat, and I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. Watch Dark Side of the Ring season 4 this coming Tuesday. Chris Candido and Tammy, aka Sunny, and like and subscribe. Let me make that clear, to the podcast. Thank you.